On this episode of the Clip Service Podcast. Guys, we're back. After a little brief hiatus, we are back, and we're here to give you what will be the last episode of Season 1. Next time you're going to hear from us, it'll be the first episode of Season 2, where we'll recap the first two games of the season against the Phoenix Suns, the home opener against the Phoenix Suns, and then the game against the Denver Nuggets. And then we might preview the game on Sunday later that day against the Golden State Warriors. But a lot to talk about. Some of it very good and positive, some of it not so much, but that's what we're here for. We're here to have the hard conversations and the easy ones. So, guys, we're excited to be back and rounding out this first season, So without further ado, let's make it happen.
What's up, Clipper Nation? Welcome to the Clip Service Podcast. Make sure to find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Amazon Music, and YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram at Clip Service Pod. I'm Rola. This is Nick. Let's get right into it.
Yes, let's. Guys, I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. That's what I got to say. I think coming into season 2, I'm going to open up with some song lyrics just for the vibes.
Yeah,
I think that's going to be the new thing.
Just sing for an hour?
Yeah, but no, I'm excited, guys. I know that there's a lot to break down. Over the course of the offseason, we've gotten a good amount of news, regarding a bunch of different things. But despite all of that, I'm pretty excited. I think there's a lot less expectations this season, obviously, than there were in seasons past. The 2-1-3 era is no more. Now it's the 2-1 era with James Harden and
good riddance.
Maybe Kawhi Leonard. We'll see. But yeah, I think overall I'm pretty positive. We'll get into that later on in the episode, but I like the energy from the team coming into this season. I think that this team historically has done really well, whether it be in the Lob City era or in the 2-1-3 era, has done really well when there's not a lot of discourse on the team and the expectations are low. And we're kind of playing with house money. I think that's when this team does really well. So I think that we're going to surprise a lot of people, whatever that means. Remains to be seen, but I think I don't think we're going to be as bad as a lot of the media talking heads say that we will be. That's just me. I think first off, what is your opinion on that, Rola? I want to hear what you're thinking coming into what is a weird and a weird season full of kind of question marks.
Well, we ended the season where I went on a little bit of a rant, but my mentality hasn't really changed. I think us as the Clippers, our culture, for lack of a better term, is kind of like hardworking. And so I think that without that pressure of us being, a championship or bust type team and just being like a regular team, I think that we're going to, like you said, we're going to surpass a lot of the early predictions. But, at the end of the day, I don't think that we are a championship team. I don't think that we will be in that conversation when the season ends. But, life goes on. Every year we get better. That's the only thing you can hope for. Every year that our team tries and our players get better, and hopefully at some point we, get to where we want to be.
Yeah, I think, just keeping in mind that I believe that the championship window as we saw it is closed. You said
it wasn't closed.
I don't think it's impossible, but I think the plan that we had in place when we got Paul George and we got Kawhi and we're going to compete for a championship every single year. I think that is closed. And I think that anything can happen if we get a healthy Kawhi and James Harden in the postseason, if we make it to that point, which I think we will in some way, shape, or form. But, anything's possible. But I think that the initial plan from this team is kind of no more. And that's okay. But I think the thing that we have to remember, because I'm hearing a lot of takes, just not even just from Clipper fans, but from everybody around the league that's talking about this team. I think the general consensus is that the Clippers are in this like kind of rebuilding mode, and I think that that's accurate to a point. I think that we're kind of retooling around what's left of the 2-1-3 era, which is literally just Kawhi. We're retooling around Kawhi. But we got younger, we got more athletic, and the problem with going into a full rebuild mode is we don't have our pick for this upcoming offseason. The offseason after this season comes to an end, that belongs to the OKC Thunder. And if we tank and if we play poorly, I think the rest of the league would be very upset if they saw Cooper Flag go to the OKC Thunder. I don't think that that's even feasible. I don't think a tank is feasible, and I think that we have no choice but to be competitive and work with the pieces that we have. But make sure we're not tanking and we're not losing games on purpose and stuff like that, because there's no reason to.
Oh no, I don't think. I mean, I don't think we should ever be losing games on purpose. I mean, these are professionals; they get paid like real money. So when you're getting paid that much money and getting paid real money, I don't think any player, even if like the upper management like is trying to make the team tank, I don't think any of those players, if they are real professionals and real athletes, they would never tank.
Well, and there's a lot of guys
genuinely this bad, I guess.
Yeah,
they can't help it.
Totally, but I think that, there's a lot of that kind of. It's a good segue into what we're about to talk about, but there's a lot of guys on this team that are really playing for something. One of which would be Jordan Miller, the second-year player. Was it the 48th pick or whatever? He's talked. He had a really good summer league. He's had a pretty good preseason showing, particularly this last game against the. Who did we play last game? Here, let me pull it up.
I have no idea.
Oh, the Kings, the Sacramento Kings. Ended up finishing the game. I think he was perfect from the field. He's guys like that, and like Kobe Brown, and even some of the guys that we picked up, Kevin Porter and stuff like that. These guys are playing for something. Like, they're playing to either get themselves into the league and give themselves a shot for the first time, or get themselves back into the league. In Kevin Porter Jr.'s case. His case, speaking of which, is a little bit unique. Yeah. But, we'll talk about that throughout the season, I think. But there's guys that are playing for something. And I don't think that those are the guys that are going to just keel over and, sign off on losing games on purpose. And I think that bodes well for team success, in some way, guys that really want to prove themselves. So, speaking of all of those guys, let's kind of get into an abridged version of what we saw this preseason. The Clippers finished out the preseason last night, as I said, against the Sacramento Kings. They went 4-1. Only loss came against the Golden State Warriors I think that was played at the what is it called? The Front Wave Arena, the new Clippers G League arena in Oceanside. For those of you that don't know, the Clippers G League team completely rebranded as the San Diego Clippers, which I think is awesome. I think that's really cool. It gives the team a chance to utilize the old colorway that they had during. Oh, I think we might have lost Rola. Okay, he's back. It utilized the same colorway that they did in their time in San Diego. I think it was a great idea. But played their first 1 or 2 games there, and then actually debuted the Intuit Dome against I believe the first game was against the Dallas Mavericks on Monday. And from everything that I saw, even though it was just on TV, from everything I saw, the stadium looks awesome. The wall looks great. I think we lost Rola again. We're having some technical difficulties, but I'm just going to keep riffing, guys. I'm here for the long haul. My connection's good. My mic's good. everything's good. So I'm just going to keep talking. But yeah, it was five preseason games, and the Clippers looked good. I mean, certain players particularly kind of stood out. Um, I'm still not seeing Rola on my end, so we're gonna take a quick break and we'll jump right back into it, guys. Guys, we're back. We're back after a little. Rola was struggling a little bit with his connectivity, but he's back. But yeah, so what we were talking about was preseason. Clippers went 4-1. I think that there's a few players that kind of really stood out. Most of them were players that are going to be playing for a rotation spot. And whether it be Kevin Porter Jr. or Kai Jones, Jordan Miller, Kobe Brown, all of these guys got a good amount of time during the preseason to showcase, what they could provide in theory during the regular season. As far as I know, the starting lineups in place. I think Lawrence Frank or Ty Lue mentioned that the starting lineup moving forward, considering that Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Starting lineup in his absence is going to be James Harden, Norman Powell, who will be starting full time for the first time really in his Clipper tenure. Terrence Mann at the 3 or at the 2, one of the, I guess is interchangeable, but Derek Jones at the 4, and then Ivica Zubac at the 5. As far as like the starting lineup goes, from what I saw during the preseason, James looks aggressive. He looks like he's conditioned. I mean, keep in mind last season when we acquired James Harden, he didn't really have that training camp or anything like that to get into shape, and I think that's part of the reason why it took several games for him to get his groove back. But he looks good. The starters played shorter minutes, but he looked aggressive. Terrence Mann looks really good, particularly this last game against the Sacramento Kings. I think that he understands that he has, a higher role or a more important role than years past on offense, particularly. Mm-hmm. And he looked more aggressive offensively. As far as the starting lineup goes, I think the biggest standout to me, though, even in short minutes, was Zoo. Zoo looks really agile. Looks like he's in better condition than he kind of has been in years past.
He ended last season looking amazing, and then he's also been just a great player on the floor. He's always come to the games ready. He's never really been injured. I think last year was
super durable.
I think last year was the first time he was actually injured for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of those players that you can count on to come to the games, like almost like show up to work and be ready.
He's a hard hat and lunch pail kind of guy.
No, for real. And I think he's going to be a big part of the Clippers this next year. I mean, he just signed that new contract, so
him and Terrence
a little bit. Yeah, him and Terrence and
got extended, and
I think that starting lineup is gonna do a lot better than people might think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that obviously, I think we might lose a step offensively, particularly from creating your own shot, like the in the half court offense and everything. I think,
but I feel like Ty Lue is almost better at coaching when it's not kind of like narrowed down to like getting the ball to two players.
Yeah,
whereas
sure.
where he can actually game plan for the team to score as a unit and to play defense as a unit. And I mean, during that era where I guess that was Doc Rivers, but that was Doc Rivers. I almost said Ty Lue, the Lou Will era. That was Doc Rivers. Right?
First year, I think. First year, season and a half. Was Doc Rivers.
Was the year that we beat Golden State, or not beat Golden State, but took Golden State to 6 games in the first round? Was that Ty Lue?
Shea's first year?
Yeah.
Yes. No, that was Doc.
Yeah.
Because I remember specifically because Shea wasn't getting any playing time to start the season, and it took an Avery Bradley injury for him to actually get playing time. Right. So that was Doc Rivers.
But either way, I think I do think Ty is. I mean, Ty was Doc Rivers' assistant.
Right? Yes, he was still with the team.
So he was still on the coaching staff. I think the Clippers in general just play better when they're scoring as a team, as a unit.
Yeah.
And Reggie Jackson, that's the year I'm thinking. Reggie Jackson when Kawhi and Paul George were both injured. and the team just literally just went off by themselves. Kind of like coached by Ty Lue. I just think he's better when he doesn't have to force the ball to a couple players to score,
Sure.
and kind of motivates the team as a unit to score. But yeah, I mean, I'll get more into this during the when we discuss like the whole Kawhi situation.
Mhm.
But I definitely think the team is a little bit better off without Kawhi, personally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
looking at this depth chart, dude, I think our team is, like you said, is pretty young. They like a lot of our
Younger.
players, well, younger, but I would say pretty young. Do you know? I guess like you probably don't have like the statistics, but compared to other teams, I feel like we have a pretty young team, like excluding Kawhi and James Harden and Norm, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I would imagine that we're not the oldest team in the league anymore. You know,
Of
we
course.
don't have guys like Russ and Paul George, who were, you know, getting up there in age. We did add Nico Batum, so that kind of evens out things. And we still currently employ PJ Tucker, although there was a report that said that he is not going to be with the team moving forward.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's kind of neither here nor there. But I think generally speaking, guys that are going to get actual minutes this season are younger than the guys that were getting minutes last season. So
Exactly.
you know, I like it, and it showed. You know, that kind of thing showed during the preseason. You know, pretty clearly, we were a faster team. I think we scrambled more on defense, and I think that that's going to be the name of the game this season. I think we're trading offense for defense a little bit because our defense looked pretty sound in the preseason. I mean, these weren't super high scoring games. The highest scoring game that we had in the preseason was the Brooklyn game, 115 to 106, a game that we won. But if you look down the board, you know, the Golden State game, we lost at the buzzer, 91 to 90. The Portland game, 109 to 99. 110 win against Dallas, and then 113 win against Sacramento. And on all of those last three games, we held our opponents below 100 points. So I think that defense is kind of what we're going to hang our hat on this season. And, you know, we have the personnel to do it. Chris Dunn looked really, really engaged on the defensive end. It looks like he's going to be one of the first guys off the bench from the guard position, him and Kevin Porter Jr. And, you know, that's kind of what he does. He's a great point of attack defender. Derek Jones, putting him in the starting lineup. I think that Terrence Mann doesn't really have to guard the other team's best offensive player anymore. We can have Derek Jones do that. I think he's probably a better point of attack defender, as good as Terrence Mann is, which is great for Terrence Mann too, because he can really kind of get into his offensive bag and like find out what his ceiling is offensively this season. So I think that that's great. But yeah, I think just the team's motor in general looks a lot faster and a lot better this season. And one guy that I think really surprised a lot of people in preseason was Kai Jones. You know, for those of you that don't know, Mo Bamba is dealing with some sort of, he's super athletic, and Mo Bamba, who was probably going to be our de facto backup five, is dealing with some knee issues. So for pretty much all of the preseason, Kai Jones was our main backup five behind Zoo. And, you know, the one thing I can say about Kai Jones is when we got him, you know, I was excited, but I knew that, you know, this is a guy that comes with, you know, his faults. Like he's not a particularly high IQ player. He finds himself, you know, kind of out of position at times. He's not a great screen setter, but what he does do is he provides a ton of athleticism from that five position, which is something that we really didn't have in years past. You know, last year we had Daniel Tice and Mason Plumlee, who really aren't pillars of athleticism. And, you know, he showcased it throughout the offseason.
Where is Mason Plumlee?
It's funny because he signed with the Suns on a minimum deal. He's probably going to be their main backup big. And it seems like every media outlet is talking about how good of a signing that was, how it elevates. Like, if there's one thing that elevates the Phoenix Suns this year, it's Mason Plumlee. This guy can pass. He can do all this kind of stuff. Just wait. You know, you guys know how we felt about Mason Plumlee on this podcast. He's had a great career, but I think it's time to hang it up.
He's not good, dude.
Yeah, he's already, you know, not. He has the passing chops, but he was he was doing what Kai Jones is doing, in terms of being out of position and making mistakes, but he just doesn't have the athleticism to back it up.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that too much. He's not with the team anymore, thank God. But yeah, I think Kai Jones surprised a lot of people, and I think until Mo Bamba comes back, and maybe even when he's back, I think Kai Jones is really going to get a chance to show the positive things that he can do in that backup five position. He was catching lobs, dunking everything. I mean, the dude, like you said, Rola, is super athletic.
Yeah.
I think it's a great little wrinkle to have coming off the bench, even if he's playing spot minutes here and there. But we already mentioned up top what the starting lineup is. It looks like most of what we are running in the preseason was a bench lineup of Chris Dunn, Kevin Porter Jr., which is kind of another surprise that this guy is going to be playing, rotation minutes. And he looked pretty good in spurts. He's a guy that can get you buckets. He's one of the few guys now on this team that can actually create off the dribble. And he has a tendency to have like that tunnel vision, even though he's a great passer, have that tunnel vision and not pass as much. But, his on-ball juice looked pretty good in the preseason. And then it looks like Amir Coffey, maybe Jordan Miller at the 3, fingers crossed. And then Nico and Kai. So that's probably what the bench lineup's going to be to start the season. But I don't know, what stood out to you, if anything, Rola, from like that bench lineup?
I mean, I think Kevin Porter Jr. is a great player. I was about to say person, but
yeah, that remains to be seen.
I mean, allegedly, but yeah, I think he's a great player. I mean, he came from the Houston Rockets, and I mean, like, he was a great player there. I just don't think that you just he's obviously going through a lot outside of basketball, but I don't think you just lose talent. And I think that if he can kind of get his stamina up, get back to where he was, I think he'll be a great player for us off the bench. He's gonna be playing point guard. From the depth chart that I'm looking at online or on ESPN right now, it's showing Kevin Porter as a point guard, Chris Dunn shooting guard, off the bench, Amir Coffey, and then hopefully Derek Jones and Mo Bamba as forward and center. But I mean, overall, I think our bench unit is going to be pretty good. I think we're definitely in the top half of bench units, just because of the athleticism and the ability to put the ball in the basket. And I think Kevin Porter gives us that a lot. And I mean, I don't really have anything else to say without actually watching them. But
yeah, I think it's interesting.
Paper, I don't think it's too bad. I don't think it's a bad second unit.
Yeah, it's totally fine, and I think that especially now that Norm will be joining the starting lineup in Kawhi's absence, I think you kind of need to replace what he left on the bench, and I think that Kevin Porter Jr. is kind of poised to make that happen. I mean, in the Dallas Mavericks game, he was actually the leader in points with 18 points in 19 minutes, added 6 assists and 5 rebounds, 3 steals. He did have 4 turnovers, but he's a +6. And the plus minus, like he had a productive game.
I do foresee Nico Batum being slotted into that starting lineup. Just because I think James Harden, especially with being a ball handler like him, I think he's going to really benefit off of a corner 3 shooter, catch and shooter. And I don't think that's shown up. I don't think we really have anyone else on our team that is a catch and shooter.
So you're saying when Kawhi's out or when Kawhi's back?
I say both.
Because I think that Norman Powell, Terrence Mann, and Derek Jones are all pretty decent spot-up shooters.
Jones, I feel like Derek Jones is not a shooter.
I don't think he was prior to last season, but I mean, you saw it throughout the playoffs. He was cash money, on his catch and shoot. I think that's the biggest question mark for Derek Jones, because we know that he can provide a lot of defense, and he's a great lob threat. He's a great cutter, but I think the one thing that we want to know if it's sustainable is his catch and shoot numbers, because they were almost such an outlier last season. I mean, they improved significantly from the seasons past. Can he sustain that? And I think that if he has trouble, to piggyback off what you were saying, I think that if he has trouble in the catch and shoot, behind the arc to start out the season, maybe we do see Nico Batum replace him and then have him come off the bench because, like you said, when James Harden's on the floor, you kind of need to surround him with guys that can just catch that thing and let it fly.
Exactly.
Terrence Mann is a pretty good catch and shoot guy, and obviously Norman Powell was one of the better catch and shoot guys in the league last season. But I think that we could see a Nico Batum swap for Derrick Jones if Derrick Jones's 3-point shot isn't coming around.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think to me, before we get into the rest of what we want to talk about, I think one interesting thing to watch for in my eyes from the bench unit this season is I really think that Jordan Miller is ready to take up at least part of what Amir Coffey gave us last season. Amir looked okay in the preseason, but and you know, we love Amir. I think Amir's a really big part of this team because he's someone that you can just add into any lineup and he's good, right?
Yep.
But I think from what we've seen with Jordan Miller, I think that his ceiling's a bit higher than what Amir Coffey's ceiling is, just because, I mean, one thing that stood out to me with him specifically, not just in preseason, but in the summer league, is his ability to draw fouls. He is so good at drawing fouls. He's so crafty. He can put the ball on the deck and get to the rim. And that's something that, again, Norman Powell was really good at. But now that he's been upgraded to the starting lineup, you kind of want to replicate some of the stuff that Norm gave the bench unit. And drawing fouls is something that Jordan Miller is proven to be really, really good at. One thing that I wanted to point out, I'm going to pull up the numbers for it specifically. He had a fantastic game against the Sacramento Kings last night. And let's see what the numbers were. Yeah, so he played 28 minutes. Most of the starters played very short minutes in that game, but he had a game high 21 points. I think in his first 5 minutes of the game, he had 14 points and was perfect from the field. He was a plus 21 points, 1 steal, 2 assists, 3 rebounds, got to the line 4 times, or shot 4 free throws, and was 8 for 11 from the field. Like, the dude, I think, is ready to make that step. And anytime that he's asked after the game, whether it be in summer league or in preseason, it's the same answer. He just wants to prove himself. He wants it. I think he and Kai Jones are probably going to be taking the two-way contracts this season. And I think that he wants to prove himself. He said that he wants an NBA contract. That's his next step. And I think that he's ready and hungry to kind of showcase that. And I might be getting ahead of myself, and I've said it to Rola and I've said it to some of our friends, and I've seen some discourse on this on Twitter and stuff, but the dude reminds me in a lot of ways of Shai Gilgeous, just in terms of size, in terms of wingspan. And from what we saw with Shai, his first year with the Clippers, the dude was crafty. His change of speed was really impressive for his age. The maturity in his game. And honestly, Jordan Miller gives a lot of that. I mean, he shows flashes. Obviously, I don't think he'll ever be the scorer that Shai Gilgeous is, but there's flashes of his game that remind me a lot of Shai. And I think that if there's one thing that I want to see this season from the bench unit is Jordan Miller getting some playing time. There's guys, like Kobe Brown, that I think are, might provide something interesting to the starting lineup. I think Kobe Brown would be a really interesting take at the 5 because he's bigger and stronger than a lot of 4s, but he's quicker than a lot of 5s. And he can pass. He's shown flashes too, but I think the guy that's really ready to step into a bigger role is Jordan Miller. I like Cam Christie a lot, but I think just because he's so young, I think that he's kind of part of our future plans, maybe next season or something like that. I think he's a really good guy to have on the roster, but
deep on the depth chart.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think having a guy that's young and having a guy that can kind of develop in the G League is great. But yeah, Jordan Miller, right. I'm really excited to see, hopefully, some minutes from Jordan Miller, when it counts during the regular season. Right. The last thing that I wanted to touch on in preseason was, I think, a big reason why our defense has looked so good. Obviously, the personnel that we have, but I think one thing that really stood out to me, Jeff Van Gundy was coaching a lot, if not all of these preseason games. For those of you that don't know, Jeff Van Gundy was brought in as the lead assistant to Ty Lue. And every year that he's coached in the NBA, whether it be with the Knicks or where else did he coach? Oh, the Houston Rockets. His defense was a top 10 defense from what I understand. And I think that showed. I mean, apparently from the sources that I've heard, Ty Lue and other people that were asked, they've said that Jeff Van Gundy is like one of the most vocal guys during their scrimmages and stuff like that, and he's trying to really instill a defensive identity with these guys. So I think that's another thing to kind of look for throughout the season is maybe Jeff Van Gundy's fingerprints on what our defensive schemes are and stuff like that, which I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ty Lue is more of a like offensive minded, so it's nice to have an assistant coach that's more defensive minded that kind of controls that part of the game.
Totally have that duality and have like a well-rounded coaching staff. But that pretty much wraps up the preseason talk. Overall, I really like what I saw. Really, the only knocks that I have are, it sucks to not have Kawhi, but I think we'll make do without him. And then really the offense, I think at times is going to be a little shaky this season. But if we can back it up with our defense, I think we'll be in okay shape. But I think that
we didn't really get into Kawhi. I had something to say.
I was just about to segue into that, Rola.
Okay.
You're jumping the gun. We're jumping the gun. Yeah. So Rola, take it away. Speaking about Kawhi,
I wanted you to give your little NBA breakdown, the contract situation, the picks that we have, and kind of go into what Kawhi not being available for the start of the season kind of means to the Clippers and where it takes us going forward.
Got you. Well, so just a little backstory, guys. We're all in Rola, me, and some of our friends are in a fantasy league, right? We were talking this morning about, we should go ahead and trade Kawhi. The 2-1-3 era is, effectively over, which it is. But my problem with doing the whole, unless this team is garbage with the players that we have now, James Harden at the helm effectively and Kawhi when he does come back. The problem that I have with trading Kawhi is, as Rola said, the biggest thing is the draft situation and the pick situation that we have. Trading Kawhi means that we would probably have to trade James Harden. There would be no reason to have him at that point. And if we trade those guys for picks and this and that, we're essentially saying, okay, we're tearing down this team. We're going to try our best this season, but we'll probably be a bottom 4 or 5 team. And the problem with that is if we are a lottery team, the chances of our pick, which would be a very high pick, going to the OKC Thunder are drastically higher. And I think that watching them draft a top 10 player in this upcoming draft because we wanted to tear it down mid-season, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think that would be worth it. If we had our own draft capital, it'd be another story. But, we don't own our pick in 2025-26. And I think that for that reason, largely for that reason, I think that it's worth it to try and remain competitive, wait for Kawhi to be healthy, because I guess, if we want to talk about some of the sources that are... Were you about to say something, Rola?
No, you got it.
Some of the sources that are coming out the last couple of days, Young Muzik, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. ESPN reporter was saying that assistant coach Brian Shaw was taking place of Ty Lue, who had something to do after practice, and said that Kawhi Leonard hasn't participated with the team yet. Leonard continues to strengthen his knee, but has not practiced on the court with the team yet. Lob Murray followed that up. A Clipper reporter, Lob Murray, followed that up with saying Kawhi Leonard's absence from practice have been a form of load management, and Kawhi Leonard is effectively fine. Load management, that's all been saying for weeks, that there haven't been any setbacks and no one on the team is concerned. So I think that the reports that are coming out where Kawhi's out indefinitely, blah, 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 it's kind of a way for the media to do what they always do with Kawhi. And anytime that there is some sort of idea that he's going to be out for, or he doesn't have a timetable, or he's going to be out for a specific amount of time.
What have they been wrong?
I'm not saying that they're wrong, but it hasn't changed from what we initially heard, that Kawhi Leonard is still rehabbing, and that this is a form of load management. We're trying to make sure that when he does come back, that there's no, he's not sitting back to backs, or he's playing all the way through. And so I don't think that anything's changed. It is obviously shitty that Kawhi Leonard is hurt as much as he is, and that he's not going to be playing to start the season, and that he is out indefinitely, whatever. But I think that hasn't changed from what we've heard all off season long. Aside from the fact that there was that one period of time where Kawhi Leonard was supposed to play in the Olympics, and then Lawrence Frank came out and said that they wanted him to play in the Olympics. But I think that's just a case of, which is something that I think it really pisses me off, where the front office isn't very clear with what is going on. But from everything that we know, now we're getting a more clear idea of what Kawhi Leonard's status is, and that is that he's out indefinitely. They don't want to give any timetable and lie to us more, and I'm fine with that.
I don't think it's necessarily lying. I think it's more of giving us an expectation, or giving us, the fans, some sort of idea of when he's going to come back. I think
that saying that he's out indefinitely is basically effectively doing that.
I think it definitely means that it's going to be a long time. If it was a month, they'd probably say, "Oh, he'll probably be playing by November, probably playing by December." Indefinitely means that they have no idea. He could be out the entire season. They don't know. I personally, like I said earlier in the episode, my mentality hasn't changed. I said at the end of the season last season, a dream scenario for me would be to have Paul George, James Harden, and Kawhi Leonard all off of my team. That would be best case scenario. I think they're all so far past their primes. I don't think that any three of them actually, no, Paul George isn't even in a good situation now either. I don't think any three of them are winning a championship in their careers again. I don't think Kawhi can play a full NBA season plus a playoffs. I don't think he can play, 5 rounds of playoff level basketball, potentially 7 games. I don't think he can play a Western Conference Finals level playoff basketball, 7 games, and then play a finals, potentially 7 games, without getting injured or without having problems. I mean, we're seeing it now. He's been out the entire summer. I mean, he was supposed to play for Team USA. They said they wanted him to focus on the season. The season's here, and he's still not able to play. The reason he has injuries, he has knee issues. He's going to go through this season. I don't know. No one knows when he's going to play. He could quite literally miss the entire season. We have absolutely no idea. We have no information. I would love for this dude to be off my team. I truly do not give not a single fuck about who gets our pick. I don't give a fuck about OKC. They already have Shea, who's a top 5 player in the league. I truly don't give a fuck. That's my thing. I don't care about anyone else. I would like to see the Clippers win a championship one time in my lifetime. I'm at 27 fucking years and I haven't seen shit from this team. I've seen them go to a Western Conference final. Oh, sick. So like that's my opinion at the end of the day. I want them off my team. I don't think they benefit to anyone on the team. I think Kawhi can't play the NBA level basketball. He can't play a full season. He cannot play the playoffs. If he comes back this season, he will not play the playoffs. He'll play max 1 round and he will get injured. That's just a fact. And the thing is, congrats to him. He's stealing money from a billionaire. He knows he should be retired because he cannot do what they want him to do. That's like being hired to be a worker at McDonald's and not having hands and not telling them you don't have hands. Like, bro, how are you supposed to flip the burgers, bro? You have no hands.
With your feet. You flip the burgers with your feet, Rola. People make do.
It's that's the thing. Like, how are you going to sign a contract for years and you can't play the game?
Yeah, people can flip burgers without hands.
With their teeth, bro.
Dude, people will find a way.
Nuts.
A scintillating take from Rola. And you know what? It makes like I understand. I understand both sides of this. I do.
I think you're looking at it from like a business perspective and from like a perspective of of what's best for the team, and I'm looking at it from a fan's perspective of
I'm looking at it from a fan perspective too.
Then I don't really understand why you would want Kawhi to be on the team or why you want James Harden to be on the team. James Harden is quite literally a loser. He's lost every time he's ever been in a position to be a winner. He chooses to lose because he doesn't have the game style, the gameplay to be a winner. Kawhi does, but unfortunately his knees don't work. So we have nothing. Whether they're on the team or not, we're still in the same position at the end of the day.
I think it's one of those things where both of these guys will be off the books in a couple years, right?
But why? What's the difference between now and a couple years?
Because the problem is, unless we are guaranteed, also, I think that both of their trade value is a lot lower than people think. I think that if we go and trade James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, who's to say that we're going to the return is going to be the next Tyrese Halliburton or the next...
Dude, Kawhi's trade value, honestly, should be 0 because he can't play the game.
I mean, it's low. It's probably lower than it's ever been in his entire career. So why would we go and trade him for, a lower return?
But what's the alternative? At least we would get something. With him on the team, we don't get anything.
So here's my thing with that is I think that we have, with the guys that we've added and the guys that we've drafted, namely Jordan Miller, okay. I think that we have potential from some of our younger guys, right?
Right.
And I think that playing with guys that have been in playoff series, have won championships, I think that's a great way to learn. You bring in a bunch of young guys that might not ever amount to anything. If we trade Kawhi Leonard and we get someone back that doesn't ever amount to anything, that's tragic because then you're putting the guys that we have that have potential. Who do they have to look up to? They have a bunch of...
Name me the top 3 teams in the league right now, in your opinion.
I think I have to say the Nuggets.
Okay.
The Celtics.
Okay.
And then you can throw any mix of the Thunder or maybe the Timberwolves. I'm not super convinced by the Timberwolves offense yet, but their defense is great. And Anthony Edwards is obviously a superstar. I guess the third team would be one of the younger teams, which I know where you're going with this.
I was going to say, you mentioned, Kawhi and James Harden being on our team because they have experience to kind of lead those younger guys in the right path. But my retort to that would be, we look at the top teams today. These are all teams created by young players who didn't have that. OKC doesn't have anyone on the team that has won a championship or is leading them the right direction. I guess they had Chris Paul. Chris Paul hasn't won shit, and we know that for a fact because he was on the Clippers. Bro, it's like, that's the thing is, like, people make this like there's only one cookie cutter way of winning a championship, and there's not. Just because they're young doesn't mean that they need someone to hold their hands to get them there. The Celtics didn't. They lost a shit ton of times, and then eventually they figured it out. OKC they are a young team. They are really, really good. They're one of the top teams in the league. They lost last year. They got torched. Maybe they'll lose again this year. But the thing is, they're young and they're learning every single year. And they're most likely going to win a championship probably within the next 5 years.
Well, we'll see.
We already know with the Nuggets, Jokic didn't have anyone to look up to. There was no one holding Jokic's hands. And he just became the best player in the league. Like, that's the thing is, I don't think that there is a value for these players as high as people might think that there is. I think that they have no place on our team, personally.
So, but here's the thing is all those teams that you named with younger, OKC, Minnesota, and then you mentioned the Nuggets, right? Who is the best player on all these teams? You have Shea, you have Anthony Edwards, and you have Nikola Jokic. Who's to say that we're going to get those guys in a return for Kawhi Leonard and James Harden? We're not going to we might not get the next Shea. We might not get the next Ant. We might not get the next Jokic.
But why not start the process?
But I think that we can stop years. I think that we can start the process. We can have a soft launch of that process without giving. Baby. No.
Why are we soft? Why are we?
Because there's too much at stake. I don't want to give.
What's the stake? What's too much?
Giving one of the teams that we just mentioned.
We're not they're gonna. Why? Why does it matter? You think we can compete with them? Why does it matter? Who gives a fuck about
Why
OKC,
would we give OKC the next
we already
extend
gave them
their
Shea.
window? And guess what?
And
guess what? Shea is damn near 30. He's never been to the Western Conference Finals. Shea still
30? Is he not 26?
Yes. No. Shea's not 26.
Shea is not older than us.
Let me tell you how old Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is.
He's 27 max.
Let me fucking okay. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is 26 years old.
There you go. Damn near 30. God damn,
okay, but he's getting near 30. He's creeping up on 30.
Mid-20s, bro. What you mean?
Okay, but the point is he's not this young. I mean, he's young, but he's not like, you know, this up next guy. He is firmly in his prime, right? And he's going to be in his prime for the next probably 3 or 4 years. But the dude hasn't made it to the Western Conference Finals yet. Like these guys are still in the course of their process as well.
He's led a serious team 1 year, bro. They were number 1 in the league last year in the West. What are you talking about? This dude is 26, leading a team to number 1 in the hardest conference. Like, sure, he didn't like live up to what he was supposed to do in the playoffs. The playoffs is different. He got his experience last year. You're trying to tell me that they're not one of the you don't expect them to be in the Western Conference Finals this year?
But look at how long my point is, look at how long that this process takes, even when you have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, right?
Exactly. So why are we waiting? Start it now. Start the process immediately so we get to that point sooner. Why are we waiting for Kawhi to finally realize that his knees are fucking dust?
Because
God damn, bro.
Because we are not in position. We don't have a ton of draft capital. We don't have the tools to be able to build what OKC has been building.
But it's baby steps, bro. It's baby steps.
I think that these are baby steps. I think that
but we're still in the same position, bro. We're going to waste another year for Kawhi to be injured again. We know for a fact he's going to be injured. You know that. I know that. Kawhi himself knows that, dude.
I think it's very likely that he's injured, right? I think it's very likely that he's injured.
So what's the point of the season?
Get experience to our younger guys that can be a part of the next regime.
If Kawhi was on the team or not, do they not still get that same experience? Would they not even get more experience?
They do, but we get nothing out of it. We get nothing out of it.
We get nothing either way. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I would rather watch a competitive team and give ourselves a chance to be special. Give ourselves a chance to be competitive. I wouldn't say that. I think that's where So I'm weeding out where our differences are. I think the difference is that I always think that there's a small chance, whereas you think that there's no chance.
I'm thinking there's less than 0.
Okay, so Rola's giving us a negative 1% chance of being a competitive team, even.
I'm thinking that we have more than 0 to get to the playoffs. I'm thinking we have less than 0 to get past the first round.
Okay.
Because
I guess that's just philosophy. Yeah.
I think we see in OKC.
I've identified
Minnesota, we see in Nuggets, and we get torched in 4
games. I used my deductive reasoning to figure out what the issue is here.
Okay.
The issue here is what I just said. I think that philosophically we have two differences on what the potential of this team is. Mm-hmm. And I think that the end result's always going to be the same, right? Our draft pick doesn't belong to us. So if we suck or if we're good, that is out of our control, right? I think philosophically, I believe that it's always worth it to give yourself a chance. Whereas I think that you think that there's no chance, so why not just what's the use in trying?
Yeah, I think it's not what's the use in trying. I say it is what's the use in trying. The last phase didn't work. We know it didn't work. So why are we trying to hang on to that last phase?
I don't think we are
into phase 2.
I don't think we are hanging on to the last phase. I think that the front office, the coaching staff, and the players all know.
I think the last phase was Kawhi, Paul George. We added James Harden to try one last time. That phase didn't work. I say, take the step into the next phase. Get rid of those guys. Those guys are part of that last phase. We had Chris Paul. We had Blake Griffin. Remember that? We got rid of Chris Paul left. We got rid of Blake Griffin because we were done with that phase. We realized it wasn't going to work. We took the next step, and the next step was Lou Will. That turned into Kawhi and Paul George. That was the next phase. Our phase is done with Kawhi and Paul George and James Harden. Why are we holding on to them? Get rid of them, and we can take the next step into the next phase. Maybe we can luck out, and some great player will want to play with us. But we got to take that next step. We cannot hang on to Kawhi Leonard. He can't play the game.
I think that point is a really good segue into what we should talk about next. And I think that you were saying that we might get or that we might have another player that wants to play for us, right? I think regardless of whether or not we trade James and Kawhi, from everything that I understand, in 2 years or whatever, when both of them are off the books, we will have roughly $63 million in cap space to play with in free agency. Now, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but LeVar Ball has already talked about wanting LaMelo to play for the Clippers. There are going to be players that want to play for the Clippers when we have cap space.
Of course.
So, and I think that time will come. I think that it's probably going to take a couple years for us to get to that place anyway, whether or not we trade Kawhi and James Harden or not. I think that it'll take a couple of years for us to actually kickstart our rebuild.
Can I ask you this really quick? Why do you think?
I don't know. I don't know if you can.
Why do you think Kawhi came to the Clippers?
Because he thought that there was a chance to be a championship team.
Right, and he was pleasantly surprised by not only the coaching, but also, it was Doc Rivers, but also the supporting cast that he would be playing with. That's why he said, okay, the supporting cast is great. I just need one more thing, which was Paul George at the time. They got Paul George. He came. I think that with Kawhi and James Harden on our teams, like you said, for the next 2 years or whatever, I think that they are not going to allow that supporting cast to shine because they are going to be, handling the ball the most. They're going to be running the offense. And so when the time comes for another star, when we get to that free agency, when stars are looking at the team, they don't obviously see that the team has a great supporting cast. You know what I mean? Like, they don't know what they're going to be stepping into. It's not going to be as attractive as it was for Kawhi back in the day, because they wouldn't have seen it. If we get rid of them now, we can actually grow a supporting cast, trade for great players that would look good around a certain type of player. Then in the next 2 years, when a superstar free agent is looking for the next team to go to, they'll say, oh, the Clippers have a great coach. They have a great coaching staff, they have a great supporting cast. They have a great owner. They have a new arena. Why would I not go there? You know what I mean? Like, I think Kawhi and James Harden is actually doing more destructive than beneficial for our team.
I see what you're saying. I do see what you're saying. And I think that to wrap this up, I think that what I'll say is let's revisit this when, and I already mentioned this when we were talking about it with the fantasy league this morning, but let's revisit this when and if, hopefully if, the Clippers are a dog shit team with James Harden and the supporting cast that we have right now. And then, if Kawhi Leonard comes back and he's looking good, if we're a dog shit team at that time, then I say, okay, we probably don't have a chance to be competitive with what we have right now. And that's what the trade deadline is for. And I think that this team is poised to, if the panic button needs to be smashed, that we can trade. We have the ability to trade these guys, right? And if anything, having them play and maybe showcasing that they're still, productive players that might be able to help another team that's missing one piece, maybe waiting half a season to show that to a team that might trade for them is worth it. So we will revisit this when we see what this team looks like with the current iteration of the players that we have. If we are, as I said, if we're dog shit with these guys, then maybe I'll hop over to your side of things. I'll cross that line and I'll say, okay. The future's
bright on my side, bro. The future's bright.
I don't know, man. There's some clouds. There's some clouds hanging over your side of things. My side is positive. It's let's see what happens.
Nah, bro. Future's
Live in the
bright,
moment,
bro.
carpe diem.
No, the moment is trash, bro. I'm not living in that, bro. I'm living in the
Okay.
future, bro.
Okay.
Who's the number one high school player right now?
Fuck, I don't know.
Damn, dude. I gotta start scouting high school.
Yeah, we gotta. Rola and I gotta start digging Clips, deep. Bro. Yeah. Honestly, Clippers, if you're listening to this, if you have 2 front office spots open, bring in Rola and I. We have differing opinions, but we both have a vision. We do,
bro. The vision's bright, bro. We just want to win a chip, dude.
The vision is bright. The vision is bright. I think on both of our sides, we just have different ways of getting there.
Yeah.
So let's revisit this. Clipper fans that are listening to this, let us know in the comments below what you guys think, which side you think that the Clippers should take, because we're both extremely intelligent people, and I think both of us have extremely intelligent points of view about this kind of thing, and we're just about as smart as it gets, from what I understand. Mm-hmm. So guys. Very polarizing viewpoints of what this Clipper team is, what it will be, and what the future holds. But I think let's take a quick break, and we will jump into a quick preview for the first 2 games of what I think is going to be a very fun season ahead. Right after this. All right, folks, we are back, and we're here to talk about the first 2 games of the Clippers season that will be taking place on Wednesday the 23rd against the Phoenix Suns, and then on Saturday the 26th against the Denver Nuggets in Denver. And that'll be the first game of a 2-game road trip, the second of which being against Golden State. We'll probably preview that game on Sunday in the first episode of Season 2. But until then, let's talk really quickly about the first game of the season, which will be at Intuit Dome. I'm super, super pumped to see what that game brings. Like I said, first game at Intuit Dome against a team that we don't like here as Clipper fans, and I'm sure that the team and the players don't really care for either. The Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns added a little bit of depth. That was their biggest problem, I think, this last season, and that's why their record, wasn't great. But they added Tyus Jones, which kind of fills a need that they needed. They needed another ball handler. And, Tyus Jones has historically a really great assist to turnover ratio. He doesn't make a ton of mistakes. He's just a solid point guard. Reminds me a lot of like Ish Smith in his prime.
Yeah.
But so they added him. They have another year of their big 3: Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker. They added the great Mason Plumlee, so that's going to help them win a championship, according to everybody that's talked about it. What is your expectation from this game, Rola? First game at Intuit Dome. Hopefully, it's a sold out crowd. That freaking wall looks so cool, even in preseason.
Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah, well, on the TV, I mean, you could even tell. We didn't really get into that in the preseason talk, but you can even tell just from the broadcast that it's a lot louder in the stadium.
Oh, hell yeah.
I know a bunch of people that went, whether it be for one of the concerts during the offseason or to one of the preseason games, and they said that the stadium is awesome. Everything, there's a little bit, they're still working out the kinks with the app, which will be, I think it's all face recognition. Everything's very like technologically advanced. Mm-hmm. But once that is integrated and everything runs smoothly, it'll be a really cool experience. And then that wall, I mean, for those of you who don't know, the wall is the section behind one of the hoops. It's a one continuous row. There's no suites. There's no interruptions it's basically one slope of all Clipper fans. No opposing jerseys are allowed in. And I think the first 5 or 6 rows is all standing seats. So it's like a student section. Yeah. And it looked imposing. It sounded louder in the stadium. I'm super excited to see what a full stadium Intuit Dome against one of our big rivals will look like.
Yeah. I think I would hope to see a win. I think the team's gonna be super motivated because it's our first ever game in our first ever arena. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be a huge game. I want all of Clipper Nation to come out and be loud. And like I said, it's a big rival, and we'd love to see a dub.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think that it's within the realm of very well within the realm of possibility that we take this win. I mean, if you look at last season, yes, they added a couple pieces to provide depth, but with a basically all bench lineup last season when we played back to back against the Suns to round out the regular season, I think the score was like 4-30 to open up that game.
Yeah, the thing
And
is we just have great, like, it's just a bad matchup for the Suns.
it's a
We
bad
just have
matchup, and I think that we take it personal. Like our guys
yeah.
take it personally.
Yeah, of course. But like if you think about it, like Derek Jones Jr. against Kevin Durant, and then we just have we have Terrence Mann guarding
Booker,
Devin
probably.
Booker. Like
Yeah.
I think that we have the players to kind of defend them and slow them down, and that's something that they won't see against a lot of teams. And I think at the end of the day, I think that's probably the main reason why we do so well against them.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I think that the name of the game, as it's going to be all season, but I think in this one to really set the tone is going to be defense. I mean, we have the
Yeah.
personnel to be able to hang with some of their, star guys. Terrence Mann does a pretty good job against Devin Booker historically. Derek Jones Jr., I would imagine, can hang with Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant's taken a little bit of a regression the last couple of years. He's still Kevin Durant, so he's going to get you points.
Thing
But
is, he might be rusty too. It's game one, so you don't expect him to be dropping 30 plus just off the rip.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm just thinking that if we come out with that energy, I just don't see the Suns kind of taking this one from us.
It'll be interesting to see how philosophically the Suns are going to change, because they did, for those of you that don't know, the Clippers did fire, oh my God, who was their coach last season? Frank Vogel?
Oh.
Was it Frank Vogel?
Frank Vogel, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so now
Suns fired Frank Vogel.
Yes. And they brought in Coach Budenholzer, who is historically a big fan of his team shooting a good amount of threes, which is philosophically quite different from what we've seen the last couple of seasons, where the Suns are very much a mid-range jumper based team. I mean, they have guys like Beal, Booker, and Kevin Durant who are very good in the mid-range. Mm-hmm. But I would be interested to see if you see a change with how many threes that they shoot. And if that's the case, then our 3-point defense, our perimeter defense, needs to be on point. But if they do continue to go for that mid-range, just shrink the floor. And I think that we have the personnel to make it tough for them. If you were to predict what the score of this one is, Rola, just off the top, what do you think?
Oh, I don't know, dude. I think it'll be a low-scoring game. I'd say.
I hope so. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'd say 101-92.
Okay.
Clippers. I mean, I don't.
101-92 Clippers. Okay, I like that. I think that that's certainly possible. Like you said, touched on a little bit. I think there's going to be some rust. So I think that I would not imagine that the Suns come out of the gate firing and hit every single shot. I mean, it's certainly possible. It's happened to the Clippers before many times.
Yeah.
But I would like to see the Clippers make an identity of holding teams below 100. Mm-hmm. And it's possible. And I think that this would be a really good game to showcase that. I mean, most people are probably picking the Suns to win this one. So to come out and hold them below 100 would be awesome. I'm gonna echo that statement. I think the Clippers win. And I think that they will hold the Suns below 100. I'm not going to specify their score or their point total, but I think the Clippers will probably put up 107. Okay. So 107 to whatever sub point total the Suns bring out. At the following game is going to be on Saturday against the Denver Nuggets in Denver, which is always a tough arena to play in. At 2 p.m. So it's a little earlier, but. I think this one honestly might be a little bit harder. The Nuggets did take a little bit of a hit in losing KCP, who's the last handful of seasons been great everywhere he's gone, been a championship level player. They replaced him with Clipper legend Russell Westbrook. So we'll see how that goes. Trash. Honestly, I think the biggest name of the game is something to watch for in this game. Obviously, we know what Jokic can do. Jokic is a matchup nightmare. I think, as we say every single time we preview one of these games against the Nuggets, run single coverage if you can against Jokic. Do not double. I think Zoo is more than capable of doing that, holding his own against Jokic straight up. But I think the biggest thing to watch for is I've noticed, and I know you're a huge Jamal Murray fan, Rola, but I've noticed a pretty drastic regression in Jamal Murray, not just during the regular season. I mean, he does really well against the Lakers for whatever reason, but other than that, I mean, you saw it. They got eliminated by the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? In the
7 games,
playoffs,
though.
for sure. But I think that what a lot of people aren't talking about is I think that there's something clearly wrong with Jamal Murray's knee. And I think that it's something that
Interesting.
it's similar to what Kawhi Leonard is dealing with. Obviously, not to the extent, but I think that they're a little bit more hush hush about it. He's had the same injury in his knee multiple times, and you saw it towards the end of the playoffs last year, and you saw it in the Olympics this year where he played for Team Canada, and he looked awful. And it's not
Yeah.
just the fact that he was missing shots; he looked slower, he looked a little bit out of shape. And I'm wondering if there's something a little deeper there. We'll see how Jamal Murray plays in this one because he's obviously a Clipper killer, kills a lot of the league when he's engaged. But I just haven't seen the normal pop that I've seen from Jamal Murray in seasons past. The last couple of times that I've watched him play. So if that is the case, I think that if you shut Jamal Murray down and just try and let Jokic beat you, especially now that they don't have KCP, they still have Michael Porter.
He still could beat us himself, unfortunately.
He could, but I think that is a big plus for the Clippers if we see the version of Jamal Murray that we've seen the last couple of times out, where he's still a great player, obviously one of the greatest playoff performers in recent history, but he just hasn't looked the same. So if that is the case, completely shutting Jamal Murray down and just kind of forcing Jokic to beat you, I think that'll be an important game plan, and I think that. Like I said, single coverage on Jokic. This will be a really good game, an early game to see if Zoo is ready to take up the mantle of being like the team's third best player, which I think he's ready to do.
I hope so.
So that's what I'm looking for in this game. Jamal Murray, and then also how Zoo fares against Jokic, because he's had some of his best games of his career against Jokic, and
when he's really motivated.
Yeah, so
really well.
I'm looking forward to that matchup. Especially in Denver. That's going to be a hard game. It's always tough to play in Denver with the altitude, but having it be a 2 p.m. game, this one's going to be a little bit tough. I think this one could go either way. I think off the rip, I'm going to say that we lose this one.
Yeah, me too.
I think it'll be a tightly contested game, but I think that just the sheer unguardable nature of Nikola Jokic, and then if Jamal Murray is locked in and engaged, there also might be an extra motivation from Russell Westbrook. I don't know what he would be able to provide, but
damn it.
Russ, when motivated, is still a very dangerous player, especially in the open court. So that'll be one.
See him talking shit, bro.
I don't think he will. Maybe he will. I don't know.
Bro, I don't think he liked how it ended with the Clippers.
Yeah, there were some reports that there were some reports that were saying that he was using correctly. Whatever. I don't agree with that at all. But I think this is one that we lose, and maybe we split the first two games. I would love to go 2-0, but I'm just going to save myself. I'm going to protect my heart and say that we're going to lose this one. But guys, I am very excited for these two games. The season is right around the corner. Regardless of what the outcome of the season is, I'm really excited to see a new look Clippers, one that's younger, more athletic. We play faster, more defensive minded. Obviously, the offense is going to be a work in progress, but I think there's a lot to be excited about this season, and I would love to see us get off on the right track. Regardless of the outcome, I would love to see us get out on the right track. I think I'm looking forward to seeing a really, really good season from James Harden, as the number one option. So, Rola, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on before we get on out of here?
No. Like you said, I would love for us to be 2-0 to start the season, but that Nuggets game is going to be tough. I think we will beat the Suns at home, though.
Cool. Well, you guys heard it here first. Let us know what you thought of the show. Comment, subscribe, like. Tell us what you think of our heated debate about Kawhi Leonard, because we would love some feedback on that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been the last episode of Season 1. As we said up top, we will have Season 2 for you coming up, most likely out on Sunday or Monday of next week, previewing the first two games or recapping the first two games, and then maybe previewing the game against the Golden State Warriors. Guys, keep your heads up, Clipper Nation. It's going to be a fun year, I think. And we are going to be here to talk about it the whole way through. So thank you guys so much for listening. And as always, let's go Clips.
Go Clips.